Find a quiet place where you can truly relax. If you can, turn off the lights and let the room sink into darkness. Maybe leave a window slightly open so you can feel the gentle breeze drifting in, or keep a small fan running to create a soft, steady hum in the background. Right now, it's just you, your calm breathing, and the story we're about to share together. Welcome. Tonight, we'll embark on a journey, not across this planet, but far beyond it. A journey into a mystery so profound that it could shake everything you've ever believed about where you come from and who you really are. Imagine this. DNA, the very foundation of life itself. A tiny spiraling code that carries every piece of information needed to build you, me, and every living thing on Earth. It twists and coils like an infinite ladder, carefully tucked away inside each and every cell of your body. For as long as we've studied life, we've assumed that this incredible molecule originated right here, on our planet, shaped by billions of years of evolution and natural selection. But what if that isn't the whole story? What if human DNA didn't actually begin here? What if, buried deep within us, there lies something foreign, something that came from far beyond our blue world? What if a part of us was born among the stars, sent here eons ago, carried across unimaginable distances through space? Close your eyes for a moment and try to picture it. Out there in the vastness of the cosmos are countless galaxies, each filled with countless planets and stretches of empty space so immense they defy comprehension. Somewhere, in a place unimaginably far away, there could exist a civilization far older and far more advanced than our own. Perhaps they mastered science and technology to such a degree that life was no longer confined to a single world. Perhaps as part of a grand experiment, a gift, or even a message, they sent fragments of life across the universe, tiny seeds waiting to take root on any planet that could nurture them. You might be thinking, that sounds like a science fiction story, not reality. And for much of human history it would have been dismissed as fantasy. Yet, as scientists probe deeper into the mysteries of both DNA and the cosmos, strange clues are beginning to emerge. Clues that don't fit neatly into our traditional understanding. In the minutes ahead, we'll explore this astonishing possibility together. We'll examine the evidence found inside ancient meteorites, rocks that fell to Earth carrying the building blocks of life. We'll uncover strange segments of our DNA that appear in no other known species on this planet. We'll delve into myths and ancient stories, from Sumeria to Egypt to the Maya, which speak of beings who came from the sky. Are these simply legends meant to explain the unexplainable? Or could they be fragments of truth preserved through time? And then we'll face the biggest question of all. If our DNA truly came from beyond this Earth, what does that mean for us? Are we truly native to this planet? Or are we travellers, guests from a distant world, living here temporarily while calling it home? So take a deep breath, slowly, in and out. Feel your chest rise and fall with each gentle rhythm. Let every ounce of tension leave your body. Clear your mind and open it to wonder, to possibility. Because what we're about to explore may change the way you see yourself and the universe around you. When you're ready, we'll begin to unlock the secrets of life's origins, a journey that may lead us far beyond the stars and perhaps back to the deepest parts of who we truly are. Before we dive deeper into the mystery of where human DNA might truly come from, we need to take a moment to understand what DNA really is. You've heard the word countless times. It appears in science textbooks, documentaries, and even crime shows. But DNA is far more than just a scientific term. It is the foundation of life itself, a master code that quietly operates inside every living cell on this planet, including your own. Imagine, for a moment, the tiniest building block of the life, the cell. It's microscopic, so small that millions of them could fit on the tip of your finger. And within the nucleus of each of those cells lies something astonishing, a tightly wound, delicate thread of information. This thread is DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid. It's not alive by itself, but it holds the instructions for creating and sustaining life. Think of it like a book, but instead of paper and ink, it's written in a special language made up of only 4 letters, A, T, C, and G. These letters represent 4 chemical bases, adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. Now, you might think 4 letters sound too simple to hold the complexity of a human being, or a tree, or a blue whale. But it's the arrangement of these letters, the order in which they appear, that creates endless diversity. Just as 26 letters in the alphabet can form an infinite variety of words and stories, these 4 bases combine to form the endless possibilities of life. Inside your body right now, there are roughly 37 trillion cells, and nearly every single one of them contains the complete set of instructions that make you who you are. If you were to stretch out all the DNA from just one cell, it would be about 2 meters long. Multiply that by all the cells in your body, and you'd have enough DNA to travel from Earth to the Sun and back hundreds of times. It's almost incomprehensible, like trying to imagine the number of stars in the sky. DNA is structured like a ladder twisted into a spiral, known as the famous double helix. This elegant shape was first revealed to the world in 1953 by scientists James Watson and Francis Crick, based on the groundbreaking X-ray images captured by Rosalind Franklin. It was one of the greatest scientific discoveries of the 20th century forever changing the way we understand life. The 2 sides of the DNA ladder are like sturdy rails, while the rungs connecting them are pairs of the 4 bases. A always pairs with T, and C always pairs with G. This perfect pairing ensures stability, like a zipper holding 2 pieces of fabric together. But DNA isn't just a beautiful shape, it's a functional code. Segments of this code are called genes. Each gene contains specific instructions for making proteins, which are the building blocks of your body. These proteins form everything from muscle fibers to the enzymes that digest your food, even the pigments that give color to your eyes. When your body needs to grow, heal, or adapt, it turns to these instructions. Without DNA, there would be no blueprint for life, no order to the chaos of existence. For billions of years, DNA has been quietly copying itself, passing its instructions from one generation to the next. It is the ultimate storyteller, carrying the saga of life across time. Your DNA is a living history book. Within it are traces of your parents, grandparents, and countless ancestors stretching back not just thousands of years, but millions. It connects you to every living thing on this planet. In fact, humans share about 60% of their DNA with bananas, 80% with cows, and more than 98% with chimpanzees. This shared genetic heritage is why scientists believe all life on Earth evolved from a common origin. And yet, within this beautiful pattern lies something strange. While we share so much of our DNA with other creatures, there are certain sequences, certain fragments of code, that appear to belong only to us. These unique sections have no clear origin. They don't match any known species on Earth. Scientists call them orphan genes, because they seem to have no parent, no evolutionary trail. They simply exist, as if they appeared out of nowhere. Think about that for a moment. In a world where every living thing is connected through a shared tree of life, there are branches in our own DNA that don't seem to connect to anything else. It's like finding a page in a history book, written in a completely different language, inserted where it doesn't belong. Where did these mysterious genes come from? How did they appear in our code? This is where the story becomes even more intriguing. For decades, biologists assumed that DNA evolved only here, shaped by Earth's environment and conditions. The idea that it could have arrived from beyond our planet seemed far too extraordinary to consider. But in recent years, discoveries have begun to challenge this assumption. We now know that space is not empty. Meteorites, comets, and interstellar dust constantly travel through the universe, carrying not just rock and ice, but also complex molecules. In some meteorites that have fallen to Earth, scientists have found amino acids, the very building blocks of life. These are the same chemicals that make up proteins, your body. This finding was groundbreaking because it proved that the ingredients for life can form naturally in space, without the need for Earth's environment. It opened the door to a bold possibility. What if life itself, or at least the code for life, was brought here from the stars? There's even a name for this idea, Panspermia. It's a theory that suggests life didn't necessarily start on Earth. Instead, it may have begun somewhere else in the universe, and then travelled here, carried on cosmic travellers like meteorites or comets. If true, it would mean that life on Earth is part of a much larger story, a universal process rather than a local accident. It would also mean that our DNA might not be entirely Earthborn. Parts of it could be ancient stowaways, fragments of a cosmic heritage we've only just begun to recognize. As we continue to study the deep structure of DNA, new questions arise. Why do certain parts of our genetic code appear so unusual compared to other species? Why do some sections look almost foreign? Could these be traces of an origin that stretches beyond this planet, beyond even our solar system? Consider this. Every time you breathe, every time your heart beats, it is following instructions written billions of years ago. Instructions so old and so perfectly preserved that they've been passed down through unbroken chains of life since the dawn of time, and yet we don't fully know who or what first wrote that code. It's humbling and a little unsettling to realize how little we truly understand about our own beginnings. But it's also thrilling, because in that uncertainty lies the possibility of something greater, something cosmic. Perhaps we're not just products of this planet, but part of a much larger tapestry of life woven across the universe. As we move forward in this journey, keep that image in your mind, the spiral of DNA, stretching endlessly like a bridge between worlds. In the next part of our exploration, we'll look at the strange clues hidden within our own genetic code, the anomalies that have puzzled scientists for decades, and which may hint at a story far more extraordinary than we ever imagined. For now, breathe slowly and deeply. Let your mind wander, just like those fragments of DNA might have wandered through the universe before finding their way here. The answers may not come quickly, but they are waiting, written in the language of life itself. To truly appreciate how mysterious our DNA is, we must first step back in time and follow the path humanity has taken in its quest to understand where life itself began. This search has been one of the greatest adventures in science, driven by curiosity, imagination, and sometimes even desperation. For as long as humans have gazed at the stars, we've wondered who we are and where we came from. Ancient civilizations created myths and stories to explain existence. But only in the last few centuries have we begun to seek answers through science. Imagine the Earth 4.5 billion years ago. It was a violent, chaotic world. Volcanic eruptions painted the sky with fire, oceans boiled with heat, and the surface was constantly bombarded by massive asteroids and comets. There was no life, only raw elements swirling in a hostile environment. Somehow, in this crucible of destruction and creation, the first molecules that could copy themselves emerged. Over time, these primitive molecules became more complex, eventually giving rise to the first living cells. This is the story that modern biology tells us, built on centuries of careful observation and discovery. For much of history, people believed that life had simply always been here. It was static, unchanging. Species were thought to be fixed, created in their current forms. This view began to change in the 19th century when a young naturalist named Charles Darwin set sail on the HMS Beagle. During his voyage, Darwin observed a stunning variety of plants and animals, especially on the Galapagos Islands. He noticed patterns, how species differed slightly from island to island, how they seemed perfectly adapted to their environments. These observations led Darwin to a radical idea. Species are not fixed. They change over time through a process he called natural selection. In his landmark book On the Origin of Species, Darwin proposed that all life on Earth shares a common ancestor, branching out like a great tree. The similarities we see between different creatures, like the shared structure of a bird's wing and a human hand, are evidence of that shared origin. Darwin's theory was revolutionary. It provided a powerful explanation for the diversity of life. But it also raised a profound question. If all life evolved from a common ancestor, where did that very first ancestor come from? What sparked the leap from non-living chemicals to the first living organism? At first, scientists thought life might have arisen from a primordial soup of molecules in Earth's early oceans. In the 1950s, two researchers, Stanley Miller and Harold Urey, conducted a famous experiment to test this idea. They recreated what they believed to be the conditions of the early Earth inside a sealed glass chamber. Water, methane, ammonia, and hydrogen, all exposed to electrical sparks to mimic lightning. After just a few days, the experiment produced amino acids, the basic building blocks of proteins. This was a stunning discovery. It suggested that the ingredients for life could form naturally under the right conditions. It seemed to confirm that Earth itself could have been the birthplace of life, given enough time and energy. For decades, this view dominated biology. Life, according to this model, began as a purely local phenomenon, a natural chemical process unique to our planet. And yet, there were always gaps in the story. Even Miller and Urey's experiment, groundbreaking as it was, did not create actual life. It only showed that simple molecules could form. The leap from those molecules to a fully functioning cell capable of replication and evolution is enormous. To this day, no scientist has been able to recreate that exact moment when non-living matter became alive. It remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in science. As researchers dug deeper into the past, they encountered even stranger puzzles. Fossil records revealed that life appeared on Earth very quickly after the planet became stable enough to support it. In cosmic terms, it was almost instantaneous. If life were truly so difficult to create, why did it happen so fast? This rapid appearance seemed suspicious, as though the seeds of life had already been present, ready to grow the moment conditions were right. Meanwhile, advances in genetics added new layers of complexity to the mystery. When scientists began decoding DNA, they expected to see a gradual step-by-step progression of changes across species, a clear evolutionary trail stretching back to the simplest organisms. In many ways, that's what they found. But there were also sudden leaps, moments where entirely new genes appeared without any clear ancestors. It was like reading a book and suddenly encountering a whole new chapter written by an unknown author. These genetic surprises challenged the idea that life's story was entirely earthbound. If these orphan genes didn't come from any known species here, where did they come from? Could they be relics of something older, something that arrived from beyond our planet long before humans ever existed? As these questions grew louder, some scientists began to revisit an ancient idea, a concept first suggested by the Greek philosopher Anaxagoras over 2,000 years ago. He believed that life is universal, scattered throughout the cosmos like seeds. This idea was largely forgotten for centuries, but in the 20th century it gained a new name and a modern scientific foundation: Panspermia. Panspermia proposes that life did not necessarily begin on Earth. Instead, it may have started elsewhere, in deep space or on another planet, and then travelled here, riding on meteorites, comets, or even microscopic particles drifting through the cosmos. In this view, Earth is not the origin of life, but merely one of many places where life took hold. At first, panspermia was considered fringe science, even laughable, but recent discoveries have made it harder to dismiss. Scientists have found that certain microorganisms can survive extreme conditions, including the vacuum of space. Experiments on the International Space Station have shown that some bacteria can endure radiation, freezing temperatures, and the absence of oxygen for long periods of time. If life can survive space travel, then perhaps it really could spread between planets. Even more compelling is the discovery of complex organic molecules in space. In meteorites that have crashed to Earth, researchers have identified amino acids and other precursors of life. These are the same building blocks Miller and Urey created in their experiment, but these ones were formed in the cold, dark reaches of space, completely independent of Earth's environment. Each new piece of evidence suggests that life is not a fragile miracle limited to one planet, but a robust and adaptable force woven into the fabric of the universe itself. Perhaps the question is not whether life exists elsewhere, but how often it emerges, and how far it travels. This perspective changes everything. If life's building blocks are scattered across the cosmos, then the origins of our own DNA may be part of a story far larger than Earth alone. It raises possibilities both thrilling and unsettling. Could parts of our genetic code be ancient passengers from another world, carried here long before humans ever walked the land? Could the instructions that shaped us have been written under alien skies? As we ponder these questions, the boundary between science and wonder begins to blur. The search for life's origin is no longer just a question of biology. It becomes a cosmic mystery stretching across time and space. In the next part of our journey, we'll dive deeper into the human genome itself, exploring the strange anomalies that make our DNA unlike any other on this planet. These are the clues that may reveal whether we are truly children of the Earth, or travellers from the stars. For now, breathe deeply and imagine the vastness of space, where every speck of dust might carry the potential for life, waiting for the right moment to awaken. For most of human history, we've believed that we were part of the natural order of Earth, our bodies built from the same materials and processes as every other living thing on this planet. After all, our DNA is clearly connected to that of other creatures. We share more than 98% of our genetic code with chimpanzees, and even with something as simple as a banana, we share about 60%. These numbers seem to confirm Darwin's theory that all life evolved from a common ancestor, branching outward like the limbs of a vast and ancient tree. But as scientists studied the human genome in greater detail, something unexpected emerged, details that didn't quite fit into the neat picture of slow, gradual evolution. They began to notice anomalies, strange irregularities hidden deep within our genetic code. These anomalies are so unusual that some researchers have suggested they might hint at a far more extraordinary origin for humanity. Imagine reading a massive book, one with billions of words. The story flows smoothly for chapter after chapter, showing a clear pattern. Then suddenly you stumble across entire paragraphs written in a completely different language, with no explanation for how they got there. That's what some parts of the human genome are like. Most of our DNA follows predictable evolutionary paths, linking us to other primates and earlier species. But scattered throughout this code are fragments that seem to appear out of nowhere, with no known relatives, no gradual build-up, no obvious explanation. These mysterious segments are known as orphan genes. In the natural world, new genes usually evolve through duplication and mutation of existing ones. It's a slow, step-by-step process. But orphan genes don't show that kind of ancestry. They seem to just appear fully formed, like new chapters inserted into the book of life. Some of these orphan genes are found only in humans, not in chimpanzees, gorillas, or any other primate. They are uniquely ours. One of the most striking findings came when scientists analysed the human genome in comparison to other species. They discovered that humans possess 223 genes that don't appear in any other known organism on Earth, not in animals, plants, bacteria, or even ancient single-celled life forms. These genes are essential to many critical functions in our bodies, including our immune system and brain development. Without them, we simply wouldn't be human. The question is, where did these genes come from? The standard evolutionary model struggles to explain this. It would take millions of years for entirely new genes to develop through random mutations. Yet these 223 genes appear to have no evolutionary history at all. They don't match anything that came before them. To some researchers, this has been deeply unsettling. In fact, a few have even suggested that these genes might have an external origin, that they could be remnants of genetic material brought to Earth from somewhere else, long before recorded history. Now, before we jump to conclusions about aliens or ancient visitors, it's important to note that there are other possible explanations. Some scientists argue that these genes might have been transferred through a process called horizontal gene transfer, which occurs when genetic material moves directly from one species to another. This process is well documented in bacteria and viruses, and it has played a role in evolution here on Earth. For instance, viruses can sometimes carry bits of DNA from one organism to another, acting as microscopic messengers of genetic change. However, even horizontal gene transfer has limits. It can explain some unusual genes, but not all of them, especially not ones that appear so suddenly and are so integral to what makes us human. The sheer complexity and uniqueness of these 223 genes suggests something more profound may be at play. Beyond these mysterious genes, there are other oddities in our DNA that set humans apart. One of the most significant involves chromosome 2, which is unique to our species. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, while our closest relatives, like chimpanzees and gorillas, have 24. When scientists examined chromosome 2, they found something astonishing. It appears to be the result of two ancestral chromosomes fused together. This fusion created a single, much larger chromosome unlike anything seen in other primates. What's strange about this is not just the fusion itself, but how perfectly it is structured. The ends of the fused chromosome contain remnants of what used to be telomeres, the protective caps normally found at the ends of chromosomes. It's as if two separate chromosomes were deliberately joined, leaving behind a signature of their previous form. Some scientists see this as a natural event that happened long ago. Others, however, are struck by how precise and clean this fusion is, leading them to wonder whether it was a random accident or something more intentional. This unusual chromosome might hold clues to why humans evolve such dramatically different abilities compared to other species: advanced language, abstract thought, complex culture, and technology. It's almost as if our evolutionary path took a sudden sharp turn rather than a gradual climb. These anomalies, the orphan genes, the mysterious 223 unique sequences, the fused chromosome, form a puzzle that is far from solved. Traditional evolutionary biology can explain much of who we are, but these pieces don't fit neatly into the picture. They raise unsettling questions. Could these strange genetic markers be evidence of something extraordinary in our past? Perhaps life on Earth was influenced by forces we don't yet understand. Maybe, just maybe, some of our DNA didn't originate here at all. To be clear, mainstream science does not claim that humans are part alien, or that we were created by extraterrestrial beings. These ideas remain speculative, and most researchers approach them with extreme caution. Still, the fact remains. Our DNA holds mysteries that we cannot yet fully explain. And in science, the unexplained often points the way to new discoveries. Think about how profound this possibility is. Every second, right now, billions of processes are happening inside your body, guided by instructions written in this ancient code. When you breathe, blink, or dream, you are following commands set down long before you were born, commands that trace back through countless generations. And hidden within those commands are passages we don't yet understand, passages that may connect us not only to Earth, but perhaps to the cosmos itself. In many ways, our DNA is like a message written in a language we are only beginning to decode. Some parts are familiar and well understood, others remain cryptic, waiting for the right key to unlock their meaning. The strange and unexplained sequences in our genome are like whispers from the past, fragments of a story too vast for us to grasp completely. As we continue this journey, we'll explore some of the theories about how these unusual genetic features might have come to be. Are they simply the product of random chance, or do they hint at a deeper connection between humanity and the stars? In the next part, we'll examine a bold and controversial idea that life itself, including the seeds of our DNA, may have been deliberately spread throughout the universe. Could our very existence be the result of a cosmic experiment, a grand design carried out by forces far beyond our understanding? As we move forward, keep your mind open and let curiosity guide you deeper into this mystery that lies at the heart of who we are. When we think about life on Earth, we often imagine it as something unique, something that arose solely within the boundaries of our planet. For generations, the dominant scientific belief has been that life started here from scratch, just a fortunate combination of chemicals, heat, and time. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if life didn't begin here at all? What if it was brought here, carried across the vastness of space like drifting seeds on a cosmic wind? This radical idea is called Panspermia. The word comes from Greek, with pan meaning everywhere and sperma meaning seed. At its core, Panspermia suggests that life, or at least the essential building blocks of life, is universal. Instead of being born on Earth, life could have originated somewhere else entirely and travelled through space to reach us. Once it arrived, it found a suitable environment on our planet and began to grow, eventually evolving into the incredible diversity of life we see today. To understand this concept, imagine Earth as a fertile field. Seeds are constantly falling from the sky, most of them burning up in the atmosphere or landing in places where they cannot sprout. But every so often, a seed lands in just the right spot, in rich soil with plenty of sunlight and water. It takes root, grows and spreads, eventually becoming part of a vast and thriving ecosystem. In this analogy, those seeds are fragments of life drifting through the cosmos, and Earth is just one garden among many scattered across the universe. For centuries, the idea of life arriving from space was considered more philosophy than science. The ancient Greek philosopher Anaxagoras first proposed something like it over 2,000 years ago, suggesting that life is scattered throughout the cosmos like seeds waiting to grow wherever conditions are right. But without evidence, it remained a poetic notion, overshadowed by Earth-centered explanations of life's origin. That began to change in the modern era. In the 20th century, scientists started discovering surprising clues that gave new weight to the idea. One of the first came from an unlikely source: meteorites. These rocky visitors from space have been falling to Earth for billions of years, remnants of the early solar system. When researchers began analysing them, they were stunned to find that many contained organic molecules, including amino acids, the very same molecules that form the proteins in our bodies. This discovery was groundbreaking. It meant that the basic ingredients for life could form naturally in space without needing Earth's unique conditions. In other words, the recipe for life might be universal, baked into the very chemistry of the cosmos. If these building blocks are everywhere, then life could, in theory, arise anywhere. But amino acids are just the beginning. Over time, scientists have found increasingly complex molecules in space. Using powerful telescopes, they've detected sugar-like compounds, alcohols, and even molecules resembling simple membranes, structures that could form the outer walls of primitive cells. The more we look, the more evidence we find that the universe is not a barren void, but a chemical factory brimming with the potential for life. Still, the leap from molecules to living organisms is enormous. Could actual microbes, tiny living creatures, survive a journey through space? Surprisingly, the answer appears to be yes. Experiments conducted on the International Space Station and other spacecraft have shown that certain extremophiles, organisms that thrive in extreme conditions, can survive the vacuum of space. Some can endure intense radiation, freezing cold, and the absence of oxygen for years. These hardy survivors are like cosmic hitchhikers, perfectly equipped to travel between worlds. Imagine a single microbe clinging to the surface of a rock blasted off its home planet by a massive asteroid impact. That rock hurtles through space for millions of years, protected by its outer layers from radiation and cosmic hazards. Eventually it crosses paths with Earth, crashing through our atmosphere and landing in an ancient ocean. If the microbe awakens in this new environment, it could begin to multiply, setting off a chain reaction that leads to the evolution of life as we know it. This scenario may sound like science fiction, but it is supported by real evidence. Scientists have found meteorites on Earth that clearly originated from Mars, blasted into space by ancient impacts and later captured by Earth's gravity. If rocks can travel between planets, why not microscopic life? And if it can happen between Mars and Earth, it could happen between countless worlds across the galaxy. One famous case is the Murchison meteorite, which fell in Australia in 1969. When researchers examined it, they discovered over 90 different amino acids, many of which are not commonly found on Earth. Some were arranged in patterns that suggested they had been forming in space for billions of years before arriving here. To this day, the Murchison meteorite is considered one of the strongest pieces of evidence that the raw materials of life are cosmic in origin. But panspermia goes even further than just molecules or microbes. Some versions of the theory propose that life might have been deliberately seeded across the universe by advanced civilizations. In this scenario, intelligent beings, far older and more advanced than us, might have sent probes or spacecraft carrying microorganisms to distant planets, essentially planting the seeds of life wherever they could take root. This concept is known as directed panspermia, and while it sounds like the plot of a movie, a few scientists have argued that it's worth considering, especially given the mysteries we still find in our own DNA. Even if we set aside deliberate seeding, natural panspermia alone is astonishing to contemplate. It suggests that life is a cosmic traveller, a force that flows across galaxies, constantly seeking new homes. If this is true, then life on Earth is not an isolated miracle, but part of a vast, interconnected web of living worlds. Think about what that would mean. The same molecules that form the cells in your body might have drifted through space long before Earth even existed. The water in your veins, the proteins in your muscles, the DNA in your cells, all of it could have origins older than our planet itself. In a very real sense, you're made of stardust, shaped by forces and journeys far beyond anything we can easily imagine. This idea also reframes the search for extraterrestrial life. If the seeds of life are everywhere, then the question isn't whether life exists elsewhere, but how often it emerges. Perhaps the galaxy is teeming with planets where evolution has taken different paths, creating creatures utterly unlike anything on Earth. Some of them might still be primitive, like the first microbes in our oceans. Others could be millions of years ahead of us, civilizations so advanced that their actions would seem like magic to us. As profound as panspermia is, it doesn't answer every question. Even if life came here from elsewhere, we still have to ask, where did it originally come from? What sparked the very first living cell in the universe? That mystery remains unsolved, and it may never be fully understood. But panspermia offers a tantalizing perspective that life is a journey, not a fixed point. It moves, it spreads, it adapts. As we continue to explore this idea, consider the possibility that your DNA, your most intimate and personal blueprint, might carry traces of that journey. It might hold within it a story that stretches across worlds and eons, connecting you to places you've never seen and beings you've never imagined. In the next part of our exploration, we'll turn our attention to the hard evidence, the meteorites, the amino acids, and the strange findings that bring the theory of panspermia out of the realm of speculation and into the realm of science. For now, breathe deeply and let your mind drift outward, beyond the Earth, beyond the Moon, beyond the distant stars. Imagine life as a vast cosmic tide, flowing endlessly through space. And perhaps, just perhaps, a small part of that tide flows within you right now. If the theory of panspermia is to be taken seriously, we need more than imagination and philosophical ideas. We need evidence. And some of the most compelling evidence we have comes not from telescopes or theoretical models, but from rocks, specifically meteorites. These cosmic travelers are fragments of ancient worlds, remnants of the early solar system that have journeyed across space for billions of years before falling to Earth. When a meteorite strikes our planet, it carries with it a kind of time capsule, preserving conditions and materials from the distant past. For decades, scientists have studied these strange rocks, and what they've found inside is nothing short of extraordinary. These meteorites contain the very building blocks of life, hinting that Earth may have been seeded by materials that originated far beyond our atmosphere. One of the most famous discoveries came in 1969, when a massive fireball streaked across the sky over Australia. Pieces of this meteorite, later named the Murchison meteorite, were recovered by researchers and carefully analysed. What they found shocked the scientific community. Inside the fragments were over 90 different amino acids, the fundamental components of proteins and, by extension, all life as we know it. Even more astonishing, many of these amino acids were rare or completely unknown on Earth, suggesting they were formed in the cold, dark reaches of space long before our planet even existed. The implications of this discovery were profound. It showed, beyond any reasonable doubt, that the basic ingredients for life can form naturally in space and survive the journey to a planet's surface. These weren't fragile molecules that fell apart during re-entry. They were hardy travellers, proof that chemistry itself is universal. In essence, the universe is a laboratory, constantly mixing and assembling the raw materials of life, and the Murchison meteorite is not alone. Over the years, countless other meteorites have been found to contain organic compounds. Some even include simple sugars, fatty acids, and molecules that resemble the membranes of primitive cells. In 2018, NASA confirmed that samples taken from ancient Martian meteorites contained organic carbon compounds, further supporting the idea that the chemistry of life is widespread, not confined to Earth alone. Imagine for a moment what this means. For billions of years, meteorites have been bombarding our planet, delivering these molecules again and again. Each impact would have sprinkled new, cosmic seeds into Earth's oceans, lakes, and soil, enriching the chemical soup from which the first living organisms could emerge. Instead of life starting from scratch here, perhaps Earth was simply a perfect incubator for ingredients that had been travelling through space for eons. But there's another layer to this story, one that moves beyond molecules and into the realm of actual microorganisms. If simple amino acids can survive the journey through space and atmospheric entry, could entire living cells do the same? Surprisingly, experiments suggest they might. On the International Space Station, scientists have exposed certain extremophil bacteria to the harsh conditions of space: vacuum, intense radiation, freezing temperatures, and zero gravity. To their amazement, some of these microbes survived for months, even years. In some cases, when they were returned to Earth, they revived and continued reproducing as if nothing had happened. These results suggest that microscopic life could potentially travel between planets, hidden inside rocks or dust particles, protected from the worst of space's dangers. Consider a scenario. Billions of years ago, a massive asteroid strikes a planet like Mars, The impact is so powerful that chunks of the planet's surface are blasted into space. Some of those fragments contain dormant microorganisms buried deep within the rock, shielded from radiation by layers of stone. For millions of years, these tiny passengers drift silently through the solar system, until eventually a piece collides with Earth. When it lands in a warm, nutrient-rich ocean, the microorganisms awaken, begin to feed, and multiply. Over countless generations, they evolve, adapt, and diversify, eventually giving rise to the vast array of life we see today. This isn't just a theory. We know for a fact that rocks from Mars have landed on Earth. More than 150 Martian meteorites have been identified by scientists, traced back to their red planet origin by their unique chemical fingerprints. If rocks can make that journey, the possibility of them carrying life cannot be ruled out. It's not just plausible, it's probable. One particularly controversial piece of evidence came in 1996, when NASA announced that a Martian meteorite known as ALH 84001 contained microscopic structures resembling fossilized bacteria. Under a microscope, the formations looked eerily like tiny cells. The discovery sparked a media frenzy, with headlines proclaiming the first evidence of life on Mars. Over time, some scientists argued that these structures could have formed through non-biological processes, and the debate continues to this day. But whether or not ALH 84001 truly contained ancient Martian microbes, the very fact that such a possibility exists has kept the Panspermia hypothesis alive. Even more intriguing, the presence of chirality, a kind of molecular handedness in these meteorites, adds weight to the argument. On Earth, life uses only left-handed amino acids. This uniformity is one of life's deepest mysteries. In the Murchison meteorite and others, scientists found a similar bias toward left-handed molecules. It's as if the universe itself has been preparing the ingredients for life in exactly the same way they are used here on Earth. But how far could these cosmic seeds travel? Could they move not just between planets in our solar system, but between stars, even between galaxies? Some scientists think so. While the distances are mind-boggling, the timescales are equally vast. A microbe sealed inside a protective rock could, in theory, survive for millions or even billions of years, drifting through interstellar space. Over that span of time, it could reach distant worlds, carrying the spark of life to places we can barely imagine. This paints an incredible picture. Life as a universal traveller, spreading from world to world, star to star. It means Earth might not be unique. Instead, it could be part of a vast network of life-bearing planets, connected by the silent exchange of these tiny messengers. Of course, this raises profound questions. If life can travel so easily, why haven't we found evidence of other civilizations? Could it be that most seeded life remains at the microbial level, rarely evolving into complex beings like us? Or perhaps advanced civilizations exist, but the distances between us are simply too great for contact, at least for now. Regardless, the implications for humanity are staggering. It means our origins may be far older and more widespread than we ever imagined. The molecules in your body might have once drifted through space, part of a journey that began long before Earth formed. You, in a very real sense, are a child of the cosmos. As we move forward, the next step is to connect this cosmic story to our own DNA. If meteorites truly brought the seeds of life here, could traces of that journey still be visible in the very code that makes us human? In the following part, we'll examine the genetic evidence, those strange and unexplained sequences in our genome that may hold the key to answering the ultimate question. Are we truly of this Earth? Or do we carry within us the heritage of the stars? For now, close your eyes and imagine the sky above you. Every shooting star, every meteor streaking through the night might not just be a random rock. It could be a messenger, carrying with it the echoes of ancient life, whispering across the cosmos. As we continue this journey into the mystery of our origins, we leave behind the rocks and molecules of space and turn our attention inward, to the very code that makes us who we are. Hidden deep within every cell of your body is a vast library of information, an ancient manuscript written in the language of life. It is here, in the spiraling strands of DNA, that some of the most startling clues to our past reside. And among those clues, one discovery stands out, puzzling scientists for decades: the presence of 223 genes that seem to appear out of nowhere. At first glance, The human genome looks like what you might expect from a species that evolved on Earth. It shares a huge amount of similarity with other primates, about 98.8% with chimpanzees and slightly less with gorillas and orangutans. This makes sense in light of Darwin's theory of evolution, which shows that all life on Earth is connected through branching paths of ancestry. Like branches of a tree, our genes should trace back to common roots. But when scientists mapped the human genome in detail, they stumbled upon something profoundly strange. Among the roughly 20,000 to 25,000 genes that make up our genetic code, 223 have no known predecessors. They don't match the genes of our closest relatives, nor do they resemble those found in bacteria, plants, or any other known form of life. These genes simply appear to be unique to humans, as if they were inserted into our genome at some point in the distant past. This wasn't a minor discovery. These 223 genes play critical roles in who we are. Some are involved in our immune system, helping us fight off infections. Others affect brain development, influencing our ability to think, learn, and reason. Without these genes, humanity would not be what it is today. They are, in many ways, a defining feature of our species. Imagine for a moment reading a book that tells the story of life on Earth. Each chapter flows smoothly into the next, documenting the gradual changes from simple single-celled organisms to fish, reptiles, mammals, and eventually primates. Then suddenly you turn a page and find entire paragraphs written in a completely foreign language, with no explanation of how they got there. That's what these 223 genes are like. Foreign passages in a familiar story. The question is, how did they get there? Some scientists have suggested that these genes might have come from a process called horizontal gene transfer, where DNA moves directly from one species to another. This happens frequently in bacteria and viruses. For example, when a virus infects a cell, it can sometimes insert its own genetic material into the host's DNA. Over time, if these changes are beneficial, they might become permanent, passed down through generations. Horizontal gene transfer is well documented in microorganisms and plays a significant role in their rapid evolution. However, the situation with humans is far more complex. Horizontal gene transfer could explain a few unusual genes here and there, but not hundreds, especially not genes so crucial to our identity. Moreover, these 223 genes don't show the typical signs of having come from known Earth organisms. They don't resemble viral DNA or the genetic material of bacteria. Instead, they stand alone, like isolated islands in the vast ocean of our genome. Some researchers have speculated that these genes might represent an ancient event, something that happened so long ago that its traces have been almost completely erased. Perhaps early in our evolutionary history, a massive influx of genetic material occurred, dramatically accelerating the development of our species. This idea is controversial, but it has gained attention because of how sudden and dramatic human evolution appears to have been. Consider this. For millions of years, our ancestors lived much like other primates, with gradual changes in body and behavior. Then, in what seems like a geological blink of an eye, humans developed advanced language, complex tools, symbolic art, and culture. This rapid leap forward is unlike anything seen in the history of life. Some scientists call it the Great Leap Forward, a moment when our cognitive abilities surged far beyond what would be expected from slow, random mutations alone. Could these mysterious genes have played a role in that leap? Adding to the mystery is where some of these genes are most active: the human brain. Our brains are unlike those of any other species, not just in size but in structure and function. Many of the 223 genes are involved in processes like synaptic growth, neural communication, and cognitive development. In other words, they help shape the very traits that define our humanity, our ability to think abstractly, to create, to imagine, and to question our place in the universe. This connection has led to a provocative idea. If these genes don't have a clear earthly origin, could they have come from somewhere else entirely? Could they be remnants of genetic material carried to our planet long ago, perhaps by the same cosmic processes we explored in the theory of Panspermia? To some, this may sound like pure science fiction, and indeed, mainstream science remains cautious about such claims. But let's consider what we already know. We've found amino acids and organic compounds in meteorites. We've demonstrated that microbes can survive in space. We've even seen how life's building blocks form naturally in the harsh environments of deep space. Is it really such a stretch to imagine that more complex genetic fragments might travel across the cosmos, occasionally finding their way to planets like ours? Some scientists have proposed that early Earth was bombarded not just by simple molecules but by actual strands of DNA or RNA preserved inside protective layers of rock or ice. Over time, these genetic fragments could have merged with the primitive life already developing here, adding new instructions to its code. In this view, evolution becomes a blend of local growth and cosmic influence, a dance between Earth and the stars. Even more daring is the idea of directed panspermia, where advanced civilizations deliberately seed life on other worlds. Under this theory, those 223 genes might not be random at all. They could be part of a carefully designed package, a genetic toolkit sent to shape life in a specific way. While there is no direct evidence for this scenario, it cannot be entirely ruled out. After all, if humanity ever reaches a level of technology where we can travel between stars, might we not also consider spreading life to new planets? Whether natural or deliberate, the mystery remains. These genes are here, and we don't fully understand them. They are silent witnesses to a past we can only guess at, embedded in every cell of our bodies. When you look in the mirror, you're not just seeing the product of millions of years of earthly evolution. You're also seeing the legacy of something far older, and perhaps far grander. Think about what this means. The next time you close your eyes and imagine your ancestors, picture not just the apes and early humans who walked the plains of Africa, but also the possibility that part of you comes from the stars themselves. Your DNA may be a cosmic record, a map of journeys and origins stretching back to the very dawn of life. As we move forward, we'll explore how ancient myths and legends might hold echoes of this cosmic heritage. Across the world, cultures have told stories of beings who came from the sky, bringing knowledge and life. Could these myths be more than mere imagination? Could they be distorted memories of real events from humanity's deep past? In the next part, we'll step out of the laboratory and into the realm of history and myth, tracing the stories that might connect us to our possible celestial origins. For now, breathe deeply and reflect on the idea that your very essence, the code that makes you who you are, may contain whispers from beyond this world. For centuries, humans have looked up at the night sky and wondered if we are alone. The stars have inspired myths, religions, and countless questions about where we come from and whether other intelligent beings might be out there. Until now, our exploration of life's origins has focused largely on natural processes, random events that allowed simple molecules to combine and evolve into complex living organisms. But what if there's another possibility? What if life on Earth was not an accident at all, but a deliberate act of creation? This is where the idea of directed panspermia comes in. Unlike the natural version of panspermia, where life spreads through space by chance, carried by meteorites or drifting particles, directed panspermia suggests intent. It proposes that an advanced civilization, far older and far more technologically advanced than ours, may have deliberately seeded life on planets like Earth. In this view, life didn't simply happen here, it was planted carefully and purposefully, like seeds in a cosmic garden. At first, this might sound like pure science fiction, the kind of story you'd expect to see in movies or read in novels, and yet, as strange as it seems, several well-respected scientists have considered it seriously. Even Francis Crick, the Nobel Prize-winning scientist who co-discovered the structure of DNA, once proposed that life on Earth might have been seeded deliberately by an advanced species. Crick didn't make this claim lightly. He was deeply aware of the immense complexity of DNA and how improbable it seemed for such a molecule to arise entirely by chance in the short span of Earth's early history. Crick reasoned that if life could begin so quickly here, almost as soon as the planet became habitable, perhaps it was because the ingredients, or even fully formed microorganisms, were deliberately sent here from elsewhere. In a paper he co-authored in 1973, he suggested that a technologically advanced civilization might have launched spacecraft carrying spores, or bacteria to other worlds, ensuring the spread of life across the galaxy. These cosmic gardeners would be like interstellar farmers, scattering seeds on fertile ground. This idea immediately raises profound questions. If true, it would mean that humanity, and indeed all life on Earth, is part of a much larger project, a story that spans not just millions but potentially billions of years. It would suggest that we're not merely inhabitants of this planet, but participants in a grand cosmic experiment. Consider how humans themselves think about exploration. We send probes to Mars to look for signs of life. We talk about terraforming distant planets like Mars or even moons like Europa, turning them into habitable places where life could thrive. It's not difficult to imagine that a civilization millions of years ahead of us might already be doing this on a galactic scale. To them, we might be like seedlings in a garden they planted long ago, now growing and evolving on their own. But if this scenario is real, what kind of evidence might we expect to find? Some researchers point to the strange irregularities in our own DNA. As we explored in the previous part, there are 223 genes in humans that don't match any known predecessors. These could, in theory, be remnants of a deliberate intervention, genetic instructions added to our code to accelerate our development. If an advanced civilization wanted to guide evolution on a planet, one of the most efficient ways to do it would be through genetic engineering. By inserting key genes at the right moment, they could shape the path of an entire species. This possibility is eerily similar to what humanity itself is beginning to do today. With technologies like CRISPR, we can edit genes, alter traits, and even design organisms with specific characteristics. We are, in a sense, becoming the very thing we speculate about: creators and shapers of life. If we can do this now, imagine what a civilization with millions of years of technological progress could accomplish. They wouldn't need to send vast starships filled with colonists. Instead, they could simply send microscopic seeds of life, bacteria, spores, or strands of DNA. These could travel vast distances, protected inside specially designed capsules, or even embedded in comets and asteroids. Once they reached a suitable planet, they would activate, replicate, and begin the slow process of evolution. Over billions of years, this process could populate entire star systems with diverse ecosystems. If this theory is correct, Earth might be just one of many planets seeded by the same original source. The similarities in DNA across life forms on our planet could reflect a shared blueprint used throughout the galaxy. Perhaps the differences between species are like variations on a theme, experiments in a cosmic laboratory. Ancient myths and legends from cultures around the world take on a new resonance when viewed through this lens. Many civilizations speak of beings who came from the sky to teach humanity, to give us knowledge, or even to create us directly. The Sumerians told of the Anunnaki, deities who descended to Earth and shaped early humans. The ancient Egyptians spoke of gods arriving from the heavens to bring order to the world. In Mesoamerica, the Maya and Aztec civilizations described skyborne beings who guided their ancestors. To traditional historians, these are symbolic stories, metaphors for natural forces or political power. But to those who consider directed panspermia, these myths might preserve distorted memories of real events, moments when our distant gardeners checked on their crop. Of course, there is no direct proof of this. The idea remains speculative, and most scientists view it with skepticism. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and so far we have only tantalizing hints: unexplained genes, sudden leaps in evolution, and ancient stories that may or may not be literal truths. But even without hard evidence, the theory remains compelling because it fits so neatly with what we are beginning to understand about the universe. Modern astronomy has revealed that planets are common. Almost every star we observe has worlds orbiting it. In just the past few decades, we've discovered thousands of exoplanets, some of them strikingly similar to Earth. The sheer number of habitable worlds suggests that life could be widespread. If even one advanced civilization arose billions of years before us, they would have had ample time to seed countless planets, including ours. This perspective changes everything. It reframes the question of "are we alone?" into something much deeper. Instead of wondering if there's life elsewhere, we must ask, are we part of that life already? Are we living proof of an ancient act of creation that spans the stars? There's another intriguing possibility. If life was seeded deliberately, there might be a kind of signature or marker hidden in our DNA, a message from the creators to their creations. Some scientists have even searched for patterns or codes embedded in the human genome, like an interstellar calling card. While no definitive message has been found, the very idea captures the imagination. Imagine if, one day, we decoded a sequence of DNA and found a mathematical constant or a universal symbol, a sign that says, "You're not alone." Even without such a discovery, the theory of directed panspermia invites us to see ourselves differently. It suggests that humanity has a purpose beyond survival, that our existence is part of a much larger cosmic story. It challenges us to think not just as inhabitants of Earth, but as participants in the evolution of the galaxy itself. As we move forward, we'll turn our attention to the myths and legends of ancient cultures in greater detail. Could their tales of sky gods and star beings hold echoes of real encounters with our cosmic gardeners? Could they provide clues about the origins of those mysterious 223 genes and the sudden leaps in human evolution? In the next part, we'll explore these stories, examining the possibility that ancient myths are not merely imagination, but fragments of memory preserved through time, memories of a time when the sky itself may have reached down to touch the earth. For now, breathe deeply, look up at the night sky, and imagine that somewhere out there, perhaps very far away, the first gardeners of life are still watching their cosmic garden grow. Throughout history, long before the age of science, humans have sought to understand their place in the cosmos through stories. Myths were our first attempts at explaining the unexplainable, why the sun rises and sets, why storms rage, why life exists at all. These tales were passed down through generations, becoming the foundations of culture and belief. But what if some of these myths are not just stories? What if, buried beneath layers of symbolism and metaphor, they preserve fragments of actual memories, memories of encounters with beings who came from the stars? Across the world, in cultures separated by oceans and millennia, there is a strange and persistent pattern. Stories of sky beings, gods, or visitors descending from above to interact with humanity. These figures often bring knowledge, technology, or even life itself. The similarities between these myths are striking, and they raise an unsettling question. Why do so many civilizations with no apparent contact tell such similar tales? Let's begin with one of the oldest known civilizations, the Sumerians of ancient Mesopotamia, in what is now modern-day Iraq. The Sumerians are often credited with creating some of humanity's earliest achievements: writing, cities, legal codes, and monumental architecture. But according to their own records, they didn't do it alone. Their myths speak of powerful beings called the Anunnaki, who came from the heavens to earth. These beings, depicted in ancient carvings, were described as wise and technologically advanced. They taught the Sumerians agriculture, astronomy, and laws, shaping the very foundations of civilization. Some texts even suggest that the Anunnaki played a direct role in creating or modifying humans. One ancient Sumerian tablet describes how the gods fashioned mankind from clay, mixed with the breath of life. To a modern reader, this could be interpreted as a poetic metaphor. But to those intrigued by the theory of directed panspermia, it might hint at genetic intervention, an ancient attempt to explain the sudden appearance of new traits in our species, much like those mysterious 223 genes we discussed earlier. Moving westward, we find similar stories in ancient Egypt. The Egyptian pantheon is filled with sky-related deities: Ra, the sun god who sailed across the heavens in his golden bark, Thoth, the bringer of wisdom, and Osiris, who came to earth to teach humanity about agriculture and governance. Egyptian texts often describe these beings as descending from the sky in shafts of light, or boats that moved through the air. Temples were designed to align with the stars, especially the constellation Orion and the star Sirius, which were associated with divine origins. To mainstream archaeology, these are symbolic expressions of religious belief. But to those exploring alternative theories, they may be records of actual encounters with beings from beyond Earth. The pyramids themselves, with their staggering precision and alignment, have fueled endless speculation. While conventional explanations attribute them to human ingenuity, some researchers wonder whether they were inspired or even instructed by outside influences. Far across the ocean, in Mesoamerica, we find another set of strikingly similar myths. The Maya, Aztec, and earlier Olmec civilizations all spoke of gods who descended from the heavens. The feathered serpent deity known as Quetzalcoatl was said to have come from the sky to teach humans language, mathematics, and agriculture before returning to the stars. In Aztec mythology, these sky beings were often depicted as arriving in blazing chariots or luminous vessels. The temples they built, like those at Teotihuacan, were designed to mimic the layout of constellations, much like the Egyptian pyramids. Even in the remote islands of Polynesia, far from Mesopotamia or Mesoamerica, there are tales of star voyagers. The Hawaiian people speak of the Menehune, small beings who built structures overnight, and of ancestral spirits who came from the Pleiades star cluster. In New Zealand, the Maori tell stories of sky parents and earth mothers separating to create the world. The consistent theme of skyborn creators appears again and again, as though humanity's earliest memories are tied to something or someone descending from above. Consider also the stories of the Dogon people of Mali in West Africa. For centuries they have told intricate stories about a star system known as Sirius. Astonishingly, their oral traditions describe details of Sirius that were only confirmed by modern telescopes in the 20th century, such as the existence of Sirius B, a faint white dwarf companion star invisible to the naked eye. The Dogon claim that beings called the Nommo came from Sirius long ago, teaching their ancestors about astronomy, agriculture, and civilization. How could an ancient, isolated tribe possess such advanced astronomical knowledge? Skeptics argue that perhaps European explorers shared this information with them in recent centuries, but others believe it could be evidence of contact far older than recorded history. The parallels between these myths are difficult to ignore. Civilizations separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years all tell similar stories of sky beings arriving, teaching, and then leaving. The details vary, but the core narrative remains eerily consistent. It's as if humanity shares a collective memory of something extraordinary, an event or series of events that shaped our species in ways we are only beginning to understand. One possible explanation is that these stories are symbolic, arising from the universal human experience of looking up at the sky and feeling awe. The sky has always represented the unknown, a source of light and life, but also mystery and danger. It makes sense that ancient peoples would imagine their gods descending from above. This is the view held by most historians and anthropologists, and it is certainly a reasonable one. But what if there's another layer to the story? Imagine that tens of thousands of years ago, before writing, before cities, before the rise of civilization, there was contact between early humans and beings from elsewhere. These encounters would have been overwhelming, impossible to fully understand. Lacking the language or concepts to explain what they were seeing, our ancestors would have described these beings as gods, and their advanced technology as magic or divine power. Over generations, the memories of these events would have been preserved as myths, evolving into the stories we know today. In this light, the similarities between cultures are not coincidences, but reflections of a shared experience. The Sumerians, Egyptians, Mayans, and others might have been describing different chapters of the same grand narrative: the arrival of the cosmic gardeners who planted the seeds of life, guided evolution, and then disappeared, leaving behind only whispers of their presence. This interpretation also provides a possible explanation for humanity's sudden leaps in development. Think of how quickly we went from stone tools to writing, from small tribes to complex cities. These changes seem almost too rapid to be explained by natural evolution alone. Perhaps, just as the myths suggest, there was guidance, a nudge from above that accelerated our progress. Of course, none of this is proof. The evidence remains circumstantial, open to interpretation. But the pattern is compelling enough to keep the questions alive. Why do we find similar symbols of flying chariots, winged beings, and star maps etched into stone across continents and ages? Why do so many creation stories begin not on Earth, but in the sky? Perhaps, as Carl Sagan once said, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and while we do not yet have that evidence, the myths themselves invite us to keep looking, to keep questioning. They are the oldest maps we have, guiding us toward truths we may not yet be ready to fully understand. As we move into the next part of our journey, we will return to the realm of science. We've seen how myths and stories might reflect encounters with cosmic visitors, but now we'll explore the hard biological evidence, specifically how sudden leaps in human evolution might be linked to unusual patterns in our DNA. These patterns may hold the key to understanding whether those sky beings were more than just stories, and whether humanity's origins truly lie among the stars. For now, let your mind wander back through time. Imagine ancient humans gazing up at a night sky filled with unfamiliar lights, feeling both fear and wonder. Somewhere in that vast darkness, perhaps, were the very beings who shaped us, our distant ancestors, our teachers, our mysterious gardeners of life. As we continue our journey into the mysteries of human origins, we now move from myths and ancient stories back into the cold, precise realm of genetics. Myths can inspire us, but DNA does not lie. It is a record written in the language of life, a book that spans millions of years. Each page carries the history of countless generations, and sometimes, within this genetic manuscript, we find passages so strange, so inexplicable, that they challenge everything we think we know about our species. One of the most compelling and perplexing pieces of this puzzle lies within chromosome 2, a structure that is uniquely human. To understand why this is so significant, we need to take a moment to revisit the basics. Humans, like all complex organisms, have chromosomes, bundles of tightly coiled DNA that contain our genetic instructions. In most living things, the number of chromosomes remains stable within a species. Our closest relatives, such as chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans, each have 24 pairs of chromosomes, totaling 48. But humans are different. We have 23 pairs, or 46 chromosomes in total. At first glance, this may seem like a small, trivial difference. But in the world of genetics, even a single missing or extra chromosome can have dramatic consequences, often leading to developmental disorders or non-viable embryos. So why are humans so different? Where did that missing pair go? When scientists first mapped the human genome, they discovered the answer. Humans are not missing a chromosome at all. Instead, 2 ancestral chromosomes appear to have fused together at some point in our evolutionary past, forming what we now call chromosome 2. This fusion event is unlike anything seen in other primates. It is as if 2 separate books were suddenly combined into one, leaving behind traces of where the pages were stitched together. At the ends of every chromosome there are structures called telomeres, which act like protective caps, preventing the DNA from unraveling or degrading. Normally, telomeres appear only at the outermost tips of chromosomes, but when researchers examined chromosome 2, they found something extraordinary: remnants of telomeres in the middle of the chromosome. It was like finding the front and back covers of 2 books glued together, right in the center of a single volume. Even more surprising, they discovered 2 separate centromeres, the central anchor points used during cell division, though only one remains active today. These telltale signs confirm that chromosome 2 is the result of a fusion between 2 previously separate chromosomes. The evidence is clear. At some point in the distant past, 2 chromosomes merged perfectly, creating a new genetic structure that exists only in humans. This event is not just rare, it's extraordinary. Fusions like this are typically catastrophic, leading to severe disorders or infertility. The fact that this fusion not only occurred but also spread throughout the entire human population suggests something very unusual happened. But here's where the mystery deepens. This fusion appears to have happened suddenly rather than gradually. There are no intermediate versions in the fossil record or in the DNA of other primates. It's as though one day a single individual was born with this perfectly fused chromosome, and from that point onward, it became a defining feature of our species. From an evolutionary standpoint, this raises profound questions. Natural selection typically works through small, incremental changes over long periods of time. For a mutation as dramatic as a chromosome fusion to not only occur but also become universal across a population, it would require extraordinary circumstances. Some scientists have proposed that this fusion might have conferred a powerful advantage, perhaps related to brain development, reproductive success, or some other critical factor that allowed individuals with the fusion to thrive while others eventually disappeared. Others, however, see this event as deeply suspicious. The fusion of chromosome 2 is unusually precise, almost elegant. It's as if someone took 2 separate sets of instructions and combined them with meticulous care. Could it be a natural accident, or does it hint at deliberate design? Consider this analogy. If you found 2 books merged into one, with their covers neatly aligned and the text flowing seamlessly from one to the next, would you assume it happened by random chance? Or would you suspect that someone intentionally edited the books? This is the question that hangs over chromosome 2. If we view humanity's history through the lens of directed panspermia, As we explored in previous parts, chromosome 2 could be seen as evidence of intervention. Imagine a scenario where advanced beings, cosmic gardeners perhaps, altered the genetic code of early hominids to accelerate their evolution. By fusing 2 chromosomes, they might have triggered a cascade of changes that set humans apart from other primates, enabling the development of traits like complex language, abstract thought, and advanced social structures. This is, of course, a highly controversial idea. Mainstream science attributes the fusion to natural evolutionary processes, and to be clear, there is no direct proof of external manipulation. But even within conventional science, the exact circumstances remain mysterious. Why did this fusion happen only once? Why does it appear so clean, so perfectly integrated? And why does it coincide so closely with the emergence of anatomically modern humans? The timing is particularly intriguing. Genetic studies suggest that the fusion occurred roughly 1 to 2 million years ago, a period that aligns closely with significant milestones in our evolutionary story. Around this time, our ancestors began to display behaviors that were radically different from those of other primates. They started making more sophisticated tools, controlling fire, and possibly even engaging in symbolic thought. It's as if humanity took a sudden leap forward, leaving our cousins behind. Some anthropologists have called this period the dawn of Homo sapiens' uniqueness, the moment when our lineage began to diverge sharply from the rest of the animal kingdom. Could chromosome 2 have been the catalyst for this transformation? If so, its origins become even more critical to understand. Another strange aspect of this story is that chromosome 2 seems to play a key role in our development today. Many genes located on this chromosome are involved in brain function, reproduction, and immune responses. These are not minor traits. They are fundamental to what makes us human. If the fusion had gone wrong, it could have been catastrophic. Instead, it appears to have been perfectly aligned to benefit us. This uncanny precision has led some scientists to wonder if there might be a kind of signature hidden in the fusion, a clue left behind by those who might have orchestrated it. While no such message has been discovered, the very possibility sparks the imagination. What if our own genome contains not just the story of our past, but a message from those who came before us, a message waiting to be decoded? Of course, skeptics point out that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. It's entirely possible that the fusion was a rare but natural event, preserved through the power of evolutionary advantage. After all, nature is capable of remarkable feats, and evolution often surprises us with its creativity. Still, the lack of a clear intermediate pathway and the precision of the fusion leave room for speculation. When viewed alongside other anomalies, like the 223 unique genes we discussed earlier, the fusion of chromosome 2 becomes part of a larger pattern. Each piece of evidence on its own might be explained away, but together they suggest that humanity's story is not as simple as we once believed. There may be missing chapters, events we have yet to fully uncover. As we move forward, we'll explore how these genetic mysteries connect to the broader puzzle of human evolution. Why did our species advance so quickly, while others remained relatively unchanged? Was it purely chance? Or was there a guiding hand, visible only in the cryptic code of our DNA? In the next part, we will examine the rapid acceleration of human progress, the so-called Great Leap Forward, and consider whether these sudden bursts of innovation and creativity were driven by natural forces alone, or whether they hint at something, or someone, helping us along the way. For now, take a moment to reflect on the simple fact that within every cell of your body lies the story of a cosmic event, a moment when 2 ancient chromosomes became one. It is a story written not in myth or legend, but in the very fabric of who you are, and like all great stories, it leaves us with a lingering question. Who or what was holding the pen? For millions of years, our ancient ancestors lived much like the other creatures that shared the planet with them. Early hominids such as Australopithecus and Homo habilis walked the savannas, hunted, gathered, and struggled to survive. They made simple stone tools, lived in small groups, and gradually adapted to their environments. Progress was slow, measured in tiny steps across vast stretches of time. It was a quiet, almost imperceptible evolution. Then something extraordinary happened. Roughly 50,000 to 70,000 years ago, humanity experienced what many scientists refer to as the Great Leap Forward. In an incredibly short span of time, just a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, our species made dramatic advances that seemed to appear out of nowhere. Cave walls that had been blank for millennia suddenly filled with breathtaking paintings of animals, hunts, and abstract symbols. Humans began creating jewelry, figurines, musical instruments, and complex tools. They started to bury their dead with rituals, suggesting a new awareness of mortality and perhaps even spirituality. Most astonishingly, during this period, humans developed language, not just simple calls or gestures, but fully structured speech with grammar, syntax, and abstraction. This was the birth of storytelling, shared memory, and collective culture. It allowed ideas to be passed from one generation to the next, creating a foundation for everything that would come after: villages, cities, civilizations, and eventually the modern world. The speed of this transformation is baffling. Evolution typically moves gradually, like a slow river carving a canyon over eons. But during the Great Leap Forward, humanity's progress was more like a sudden explosion, a wildfire racing across the landscape of possibility. Anthropologists have long debated what caused this leap. Some suggest environmental changes forced rapid adaptation. Others point to population growth and social interaction as drivers of innovation. Yet even with these explanations, there remains a sense that something is missing. The leap was simply too sudden, too profound. How did a species that had been relatively stagnant for hundreds of thousands of years suddenly develop art, religion, advanced technology, and complex societies almost overnight? One intriguing theory is that a genetic change triggered this revolution, a shift in our DNA that rewired the human brain, unlocking abilities that had never existed before. When scientists examine the human genome, they find clues that support this idea. Certain genes associated with brain development seem to have undergone rapid changes during this period. These changes affected regions responsible for language, problem-solving, and social behavior. Could this leap have been sparked by the same mysterious elements we've explored in earlier parts of this journey? Those 223 unique genes, or the precise fusion of chromosome 2? Perhaps these genetic anomalies didn't just appear randomly, but were part of a chain reaction that reached its peak tens of thousands of years ago, giving birth to the modern human mind. Consider the scale of what happened. Before this leap, early humans lived much like animals, concerned only with immediate survival. Afterward, they began to imagine things that didn't exist in the physical world: gods, myths, dreams of the future. They created symbols and rituals, they planned hunts, and built communities. This was more than intelligence, it was consciousness, a self-awareness that transformed our species forever. The archaeological record reflects this shift with eerie clarity. In sites like Lascaux Cave in France and Chauvet Cave, paintings date back over 30,000 years, depicting animals in vivid detail. Some scholars believe these were not mere decorations but part of rituals, perhaps even attempts to communicate with unseen forces. The very act of painting, of representing the world symbolically, marks a profound change in human thought. Alongside art came technology. Stone tools became more sophisticated, featuring multiple parts and specialized designs. Humans invented sewing needles, fish hooks, and projectile weapons. They learned to shape fire with precision, cooking food and altering their environment. These advancements didn't happen slowly. They appeared in a surge, spreading across continents as if sparked by a single, shared event. The Great Leap Forward also saw the emergence of long-distance trade. Groups began exchanging materials like shells, pigments, and tools across vast areas, suggesting not only economic cooperation but also complex social networks. This level of organization is unprecedented among other primates and early hominids. It reflects a kind of collective intelligence, a web of shared understanding that transformed isolated bands of humans into interconnected cultures. But why then? Why at that exact moment in history? Some researchers propose that a mutation in a key gene, such as FOXP2, might have given early humans the ability to produce and understand complex speech. FOXP2 is often called the language gene, and while it's not the only factor involved, changes in this gene are linked to speech and communication. What's fascinating is that the modern version of FOXP2 seems to have appeared around the same time as the Great Leap Forward. Others suggest that environmental stressors pushed humanity to innovate or perish. Ice ages and Shifting climates may have forced early humans to cooperate and adapt in new ways, but even these factors struggle to explain the sheer speed and scale of the transformation. Evolutionary leaps of this magnitude usually take millions of years, not a few thousand. When we view this mystery through the lens of directed panspermia or external influence, a provocative possibility emerges. What if the Great Leap Forward was not a random event, but the result of deliberate intervention? Imagine a scenario where advanced beings, our hypothetical cosmic gardeners, return to Earth during this period. Perhaps they introduced new genetic material, enhanced cognitive abilities, or provided direct teaching and guidance. In this light, the sudden appearance of art, language, and culture becomes less mysterious. It's not just a natural progression, but the unfolding of a plan, a push given at the precise moment when humanity was ready to rise. Even ancient myths seem to reflect this idea. Many cultures describe a time when the gods descended to teach humanity the secrets of civilization. The Sumerians spoke of the Anunnaki bringing knowledge of agriculture and law. The Egyptians credited their deities with the gifts of writing and architecture. Across the ocean, the Maya told of sky beings who gave them calendars and mathematics. Could these myths be distorted memories of actual events that coincided with the Great Leap Forward? Skeptics argue that these stories are just metaphors, symbolic explanations for natural phenomena, and perhaps they are. But the timing is hard to ignore. The leap in human development, the sudden flowering of art and culture, and the global spread of similar myths all point to something extraordinary happening during this window of time. From a genetic perspective, this moment represents a tipping point. The human brain, already large and complex, seems to have crossed a threshold. Certain regions, especially those related to abstract thought and creativity, became hyperactive. Connections between neurons multiplied, giving rise to a kind of mental firestorm. This neural revolution may have been triggered by a subtle change in our DNA, like flipping a switch that had been waiting for the right moment. Interestingly, this change did not affect other primates. While chimpanzees and gorillas continued their slow, steady evolution, humans surged ahead. This sharp divergence suggests that something unique happened to our lineage alone. If it was a natural mutation, it was an extraordinarily lucky one. If it was something more, then we may be looking at evidence of design. Today, the legacy of the Great Leap Forward surrounds us. Every piece of technology, every work of art, every city skyline is built on the foundation laid during that transformative era. It was the moment when humanity truly became human, a species capable of shaping not only the world around us, but also the universe itself. As we look back, we are left with a haunting question. Did we rise on our own, or were we lifted by unseen hands? The answer may lie hidden in our DNA, in the anomalies we've already discovered, and the ones we have yet to uncover. In the next part, we will focus on the scientific detective work that continues today. Through cutting-edge tools like genome sequencing and advanced AI, researchers are searching for patterns and signatures that could reveal the truth about our origins. Are we the children of Earth alone, or do we carry within us the legacy of the stars? For now, imagine that distant moment when the world was still young. Picture small bands of humans gathered around firelight, telling their first stories, painting their first visions on cave walls. In that moment, something unseen stirred within them, a spark that would ignite the future, a gift from the cosmos itself. Imagine, for a moment, that the theories we've been exploring are true. Imagine that the 223 mysterious genes unique to humans, the perfect fusion of chromosome 2, and the sudden flowering of intelligence during the Great Leap Forward are not just evolutionary accidents, but evidence of something far greater. An intervention, a plan, a guiding hand from beyond Earth. If our DNA truly carries the fingerprints of an alien origin, what would that mean for us? For everything we believe about who we are? The implications are staggering. It would mean that humanity is not merely a product of this planet. Instead, we would be part of a much larger story, a chapter in a cosmic saga that stretches across the stars. The Earth would no longer be just our birthplace. It would be our adopted home. Our true lineage would extend into the universe itself, connecting us to forces and civilizations far older and more advanced than anything we can currently comprehend. From a purely scientific perspective, This realization would revolutionize every field of study. Biology would have to expand beyond Earth, integrating the concept of universal life. The idea of evolution would remain valid, but it would need to be seen through a broader lens. Life would no longer be viewed as a local phenomenon, arising by chance in a single primordial soup, but as a galactic process, guided by the flow of genetic material across planets and star systems. Anthropology and archaeology would be shaken to their core. Ancient myths and symbols might be reinterpreted as distorted memories of actual contact with beings from other worlds. The sudden appearances of advanced knowledge in early civilizations, the construction of monumental structures like Stonehenge, the pyramids of Egypt, and the temples of Mesoamerica would take on new significance. Were these achievements purely human, or were they nudged along by teachers from the stars? History itself would need rewriting. Every narrative we have about our origins would need to be reconsidered. We would no longer be just the descendants of apes who gradually learned to walk upright and think abstractly. We would be the heirs of an ancient legacy shaped by minds that looked down on our world long before we were capable of looking back up at the sky. But beyond the scientific and historical implications, there are profound philosophical and spiritual consequences. For thousands of years, religions have offered answers to humanity's deepest questions. Why are we here? Who created us? What is our purpose? If we discovered that our creators were not divine beings in the traditional sense, but advanced biological entities from another world, what would that mean for faith? Some might see this revelation as a threat, a shattering of belief systems. The image of gods descending from the heavens might no longer be metaphorical but literal. Ancient texts might be reinterpreted not as myths, but as historical records of encounters with extraterrestrial beings. For some, this would be deeply unsettling. If the gods were simply visitors from the stars, does that diminish the meaning of those stories? Or does it deepen them, suggesting that our spiritual traditions have always been part of a larger cosmic reality? Others might find comfort in the idea. If life is a universal phenomenon, deliberately spread and nurtured, then perhaps the universe itself has a kind of purpose. We would not be alone, and our existence would not be an accident. The stars above would not just be distant lights, but the homes of our distant relatives, fellow travellers on the journey of existence. It's also possible that religious interpretations could adapt and evolve. Many belief systems already describe creation as a process guided by higher intelligence. If that intelligence turns out to have a physical, biological form, rather than a purely spiritual one, the core message might remain the same. In this way, science and spirituality could converge, each offering different perspectives on the same ultimate truth. On a more personal level, such a discovery would force every individual to confront their own identity. If part of you, at the most fundamental level of your being, comes from beyond Earth, what does that make you? Are you still human in the way we currently define it? Or does the very concept of human need to be expanded to include the cosmos? Consider the psychological impact of knowing that we are not the first, not the only, and perhaps not even the most advanced form of intelligent life. For centuries, humanity has placed itself at the centre of the story, even as we learned that the Earth orbits the Sun and that our galaxy is just one among billions. We've clung to the idea that we are special, unique. Discovering that we are part of a much larger network of life would be both humbling and exhilarating. It would shatter our illusions of isolation and challenge us to grow. There would also be ethical and political ramifications. If our DNA has extraterrestrial origins, who owns that? Knowledge? How would governments, corporations, and societies handle the discovery? History suggests that such a revelation could lead to conflict as well as cooperation. Some might seek to exploit the information for power or profit, while others might advocate for transparency and unity. On a global scale, the knowledge of a shared cosmic heritage could either unite humanity or divide it further. On one hand, knowing that we are all literally connected through the same star-born ancestry could foster a sense of global kinship. National borders, racial differences, and cultural conflicts might seem trivial in the face of our shared extraterrestrial legacy. On the other hand, fear and misunderstanding could lead to new divisions, with different groups interpreting the discovery in competing ways. There is also the question of contact. If our creators, or the beings who seeded our DNA, are still out there, what would happen if we encountered them again? Would they see us as equals, as children who have grown and matured? Or would they see us as experiments, tools, or resources? This uncertainty adds a layer of urgency to our exploration of space. As humanity ventures beyond Earth, we are not just seeking new worlds to inhabit. We are, in a sense, returning home. Each probe we send, each telescope we build, is part of a quest to understand not only where we are going, but where we came from. Some scientists have even speculated that our creators might have left messages encoded within our DNA, waiting for us to reach a level of intelligence sufficient to decode them. If this is true, then the key to understanding our origins might already be inside us, hidden in plain sight. The ultimate revelation would not come from a distant starship arriving in our skies, but from a breakthrough in our laboratories here on Earth. As we contemplate these possibilities, it's clear that the discovery of an alien genetic heritage would not just be a scientific revolution, it would be a transformation of human consciousness. It would force us to rethink every aspect of our lives, from our deepest beliefs to our daily choices. It would challenge us to grow beyond the limitations of our current understanding and to embrace a new identity as citizens of the universe. And perhaps most importantly, it would remind us that we are not alone, that the vast, silent universe above us is not empty, but alive, that every star could be a home, every planet a cradle for life. In the next part, we will explore how modern science is beginning to search for these clues within our own genetic code. Using powerful tools like AI, CRISPR, and advanced genome sequencing, researchers are embarking on a journey to uncover the truth hidden within our DNA. If there is a message left for us by our cosmic ancestors, we may be on the verge of finally reading it. For now, take a moment to consider what it would feel like to look up at the night sky knowing that somewhere, perhaps, very far away, there are beings who share your most intimate blueprint. Not gods, not strangers, but family. And that, in a sense, you are already home among the stars. If our DNA truly holds clues to a cosmic origin, then the greatest quest of our time may not lie in distant galaxies or on faraway planets, but within ourselves. Every cell in your body contains a vast archive of information, a genetic history written over billions of years. It is a record not only of Earth's evolutionary past, but perhaps of events that predate the very existence of our planet. For centuries, this record remained hidden, its language indecipherable. But today, with the rapid advancement of technology, we are beginning to read the code of life, and in doing so, we're edging closer to answering the most profound question of all. Where do we truly come from? The journey began only recently in human history. In 1953, James Watson and Francis Crick, with crucial contributions from Rosalind Franklin, revealed the structure of DNA, the iconic double helix. It was a moment that changed biology forever. With this discovery, we finally understood that all life is built from a common chemical blueprint. But knowing the shape of DNA was only the beginning. The real challenge was to decode it, to read the instructions that make you who you are. Fast forward to the year 2000, when scientists announced the completion of the Human Genome Project, one of the most ambitious undertakings in scientific history. For the first time, we had a map of nearly every gene in the human body. It was like being handed a book with 3 billion letters, A, T, C, and G, yet no glossary to explain what the words meant. Even now, decades later, we are still learning how to interpret this language. The tools we've developed since then have grown more powerful, more precise, and more astonishing. Among them is CRISPR-Cas9, a revolutionary gene editing technology that works like molecular scissors. With CRISPR, scientists can cut, modify, and rearrange DNA with unprecedented accuracy. This allows us not only to fix genetic diseases, but also to experiment with changes that could reveal how our genes evolved, and whether any of them carry signatures that might hint at an otherworldly origin. Imagine being able to scan your DNA like a detective combing through an ancient manuscript, searching for hidden messages. This is not science fiction. Modern computers and artificial intelligence are already being used to analyze vast amounts of genetic data, looking for patterns too complex for the human mind to detect. These systems can compare our DNA to that of other species, track mutations over time, and highlight anomalies that defy conventional explanation. One of the most intriguing areas of research focuses on orphan genes, the mysterious sequences we explored earlier. Those 223 genes that appear to have no evolutionary ancestors on Earth. Scientists are using AI to trace the origins of these genes, examining whether they share similarities with known biological structures or if they are truly unique. So far, many of them remain unexplained, as if they were inserted into our genome from an unknown source. Some researchers have even begun to speculate that these sequences might contain encoded information, much like a message written in an alien language. While this idea remains highly speculative, it's not entirely without precedent. In mathematics and physics, we often find patterns, ratios, constants, and symmetries that seem almost too perfect to be random. If an advanced civilization wanted to leave behind a signature of their involvement, DNA would be the ideal medium. It is universal, durable, and self-replicating, capable of preserving information across eons. To search for such a signature, scientists are applying advanced algorithms to scan human DNA for patterns that cannot be explained by natural evolution alone. They look for sequences that display unnatural precision, mathematical regularity, or symbolic structures. So far, no definitive message has been found, but the search has only just begun. This quest is about more than solving a mystery. It's about understanding what it means to be human. If our DNA contains fragments from beyond Earth, then studying it could reveal not only our past, but also our potential future. It might show us how to adapt to environments beyond our home planet, giving us the tools to survive among the stars. In a sense, decoding our DNA is like receiving instructions for a journey we are only now beginning to take. Modern technology has also allowed us to explore ancient DNA, unlocking secrets buried in the bones of our ancestors. Using techniques like genome sequencing, scientists have reconstructed the DNA of Neanderthals, Denisovans, and other early humans. These studies reveal a complex web of interbreeding and migration, showing that our species is not a simple linear story, but a tapestry woven from many threads. And yet, even in this intricate web, there are strange gaps, moments where new traits appear suddenly without clear precursors. These leaps are difficult to explain with conventional models of evolution. They may represent natural mutations we have yet to understand. Or, as some speculate, they could be the fingerprints of intervention, evidence that our genetic story was guided at critical moments in history. One particularly exciting frontier is the use of artificial intelligence to simulate evolution itself. By feeding genetic data into massive neural networks, researchers can create virtual models of how life might evolve under different conditions. These models can reveal whether certain changes in our DNA are statistically likely to have occurred naturally, or whether they are so improbable that they demand another explanation. For example, scientists have run simulations to see how quickly certain complex traits, like language or abstract thought, could evolve through random mutations alone. In many cases, the results suggest that such traits would require far more time than the historical record allows. This discrepancy adds weight to the idea that something unusual may have accelerated our development. Beyond Earth, the search for genetic evidence is expanding as well. Missions like NASA's Perseverance rover on Mars and the upcoming Europa Clipper are not just looking for rocks and water, they're also searching for signs of life, molecules, patterns, or even fossils that might link back to our own origins. If we find DNA or DNA-like structures on another world, it would be a game changer. A match between extraterrestrial and human genetic material would be the ultimate proof of a shared heritage. This is why scientists are also studying extremophiles, organisms that live in the most extreme environments on Earth, such as boiling hot springs, deep-sea vents, and frozen tundras. These creatures show us how resilient life can be, how easily it might survive the journey through space or thrive on distant planets. If life can exist in Earth's harshest corners, it could exist almost anywhere. Perhaps the most profound development, however, is the rise of personal genomics. Today, anyone can have their DNA analyzed, revealing information about ancestry, health, and traits. Millions of people have already done this, creating a massive database of human diversity. As this data grows, it becomes a powerful tool for scientists searching for hidden patterns. In a sense, every person who contributes their DNA is helping to piece together the puzzle of our collective origins. But this search is not without challenges. There are ethical questions about how genetic data is used, who has access to it, and what it might mean for privacy and autonomy. If we did discover evidence of extraterrestrial influence in our DNA, how would that information be shared? Would it belong to everyone, or would it be controlled by governments, corporations, or powerful elites? The stakes are high because the truth has the potential to unite or divide humanity. A confirmed extraterrestrial origin could foster a sense of shared identity, dissolving the superficial divisions of race, nation, and culture. We would all be kin, literally connected through the same star-born heritage. On the other hand, fear and misunderstanding could lead to conflict, as different groups interpret the discovery in competing ways. Some scientists believe that the search for this truth must be transparent and global. Just as the Human Genome Project was a collaborative effort involving researchers around the world, the quest to understand our cosmic origins must be shared openly. Only through cooperation can we ensure that the answers we find benefit all of humanity. As our tools grow ever more sophisticated, we are approaching a threshold. Soon, we may have the ability to read the full story written in our genes. We may discover not only how life began on Earth, but why it began here at all. And if there is a message hidden in our DNA, whether left by chance or by design, we may finally be ready to hear it. In the next part, we will step back and consider the philosophical and spiritual consequences of such a discovery. If we learn that our genetic heritage is cosmic, how will it change the way we see ourselves, our planet, and our place in the universe? For now, reflect on this. The greatest telescope we could ever build may not point outward into space, but inward, into the spiral of DNA inside each and every one of us. Within that spiral lies the key to understanding not just where we come from, but where we are destined to go. If our DNA truly holds the imprint of a cosmic origin, then our journey as a species has only just begun. Throughout this exploration, we've looked backward, into ancient myths, ancient fossils, and ancient molecules to understand where we came from. But now it's time to look forward. The question is no longer only who are we, but who will we become? What happens when a species that may itself have been seeded by an advanced civilization reaches the point where it can spread life across the cosmos? In a sense, humanity may stand at the threshold of becoming the very thing we've been searching for, cosmic gardeners, sowing the seeds of life among the stars. Consider the trajectory of our technological progress. In just a few centuries, we've gone from horse-drawn carts to spacecraft leaving the solar system. We've split the atom, mapped the human genome, and created machines that think and learn. This rapid acceleration mirrors, on a smaller scale, the sudden leaps in evolution we've explored in earlier parts. Only this time, we are the ones driving it. The tools that allow us to shape life are already in our hands. CRISPR gene editing technology, once just a scientific dream, now gives us the ability to alter DNA with incredible precision. We can cure genetic diseases, engineer crops to withstand harsh climates, and even design new forms of life. In the near future, these techniques could be used to create organisms capable of thriving on other planets. Imagine bacteria engineered to survive the thin atmosphere of Mars, or plants designed to grow in the icy oceans of Europa. These would be the first seeds of humanity's expansion beyond Earth. But this raises profound ethical questions. If we do begin to spread life to other worlds, are we repeating the cycle that may have brought life here in the first place? Are we becoming, in essence, the cosmic gardeners who once visited our world? Perhaps this is the destiny of all advanced civilizations. When a species reaches a certain level of intelligence and technological mastery, it begins to act as an agent of life itself, carrying its genetic heritage across the universe. In this way, life becomes a self-propagating force, ensuring its survival even as planets and stars are born and destroyed. If this is true, then our actions in the coming centuries could be part of a pattern that stretches back billions of years, a chain of life passing from one civilization to the next like a relay baton. As thrilling as this vision is, it comes with immense responsibility. The decisions we make now will shape not only our future, but potentially the futures of countless other worlds. For instance, if we discover a planet with primitive life already present, should we leave it untouched or should we intervene? Should we protect it, nurture it, or reshape it? These are questions without easy answers, and they will test our wisdom as much as our scientific abilities. There is also the question of contact. If we are indeed part of a cosmic network of life, there may be others out there, beings who have been travelling and seeding life long before us. Some may be far more advanced than we can imagine. Meeting them would be the most profound event in human history, a moment that could unite or divide us depending on how we respond. How would we react to such an encounter? Would we see them as gods, as our ancestors once did? As teachers? As rivals? Or as fellow gardeners working alongside us in the vast fields of the galaxy? Preparing for this possibility means more than just building faster spacecraft or more powerful telescopes. It means evolving as a species, not just technologically, but spiritually and morally. We must learn to see ourselves not as separate tribes or nations, but as one people with a shared destiny. The divisions that seem so important now, race, religion, politics, may one day look as small and fleeting as the boundaries between ancient city-states do to us today. This shift in perspective is already beginning. The image of Earth taken from space, a small blue marble floating in the darkness, has become a powerful symbol of unity. Astronauts often speak of the overview effect, a profound sense of interconnectedness they feel when viewing our planet from orbit. From that vantage point, there are no borders, no conflicts, only a fragile world in need of care. In the same way, realizing that we may share our DNA with distant stars could inspire a new sense of cosmic citizenship. Technologically, we are on the brink of extraordinary breakthroughs. Artificial intelligence is advancing rapidly, helping us process the vast amounts of genetic and astronomical data we collect. Space agencies and private companies are developing rockets capable of reaching Mars and beyond. The dream of interstellar travel, once confined to science fiction, is slowly edging closer to reality. Projects like Breakthrough Starshot, which aims to send tiny probes to nearby star systems using powerful lasers, are the first steps toward journeys that could one day span light years. Imagine a future in which humanity is spread across multiple worlds, carrying with it not just our bodies, but our stories, our art, our cultures, and yes, our DNA. On some planets, we might find life already waiting for us. On others, we might bring life ourselves, just as it may have once been brought here. In this future, the line between science and myth would blur. Ancient tales of star beings descending to Earth might come full circle, as we become the star beings visiting other worlds. The myths of tomorrow might be written by those who look up at the sky on a distant planet and see our ships arriving in a blaze of light. But to reach that future, we must first survive the present. Our world faces immense challenges: climate change, resource depletion, and the threat of war. These are tests of our maturity as a species. If we cannot solve the problems of one planet, how can we hope to care for many? The universe will not wait for us to get our act together. The same forces that gave rise to life here can also destroy it. Asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes, and cosmic events like gamma-ray bursts are constant reminders of our planet's fragility. Perhaps this is why our potential role as cosmic gardeners matters so much. By spreading life to other worlds, we ensure that it will endure no matter what happens to Earth. In this sense, our expansion into space is not just exploration, it is preservation. It is the universe protecting itself through us. The next great step may be the creation of self-sustaining colonies beyond Earth. The Moon and Mars are the most immediate candidates, serving as laboratories where we can test our ability to live independently of our home planet. These early outposts will be fragile, dependent on supply lines and technology, but over time they could grow into thriving ecosystems with their own cultures and identities. And beyond those first colonies lie the stars. With advances in propulsion, energy, and biology, future generations may one day travel to distant solar systems. When they arrive, they may carry with them not only human DNA, but the DNA of countless Earth species, ready to seed new worlds with life. In that moment, we will have become what we once speculated about, agents of cosmic creation. As awe-inspiring as this vision is, it is also humbling. If we are part of a lineage of civilizations that have been spreading life for billions of years, then we are both ancient and new. Ancient because the molecules that make us are older than Earth itself. New because we are only beginning to understand our role in the vast drama of existence. In the next and final part of our journey, we will bring these threads together. We will reflect on what this story means for humanity today and for the generations yet to come. For now, close your eyes and picture the night sky. Each star you see may be a home, a garden tended by hands like ours, or perhaps by beings who once tended us. And among those countless points of light, there may be a world where someone, somewhere, is looking back, wondering if they too are alone. As our journey comes to a close, let us pause and look back at the path we've travelled. We began with a simple question: what if human DNA didn't come from Earth? From that single spark, we ventured through the realms of science, myth, and imagination. We explored meteorites carrying the seeds of life across space, mysterious genes in our own bodies that have no clear earthly origin, and sudden leaps in human evolution that defy conventional explanation. We considered ancient myths of sky beings descending to guide and shape humanity, and we peered into the most advanced scientific tools of our time, searching for hidden messages in the spirals of our DNA. At every step we found patterns, fragments of a story that seems to whisper of a truth greater than the one we've been taught, a truth that suggests humanity may not be merely a product of Earth, but part of a vast cosmic web of life, stretching across the galaxy and perhaps beyond. It is a story written in stardust, in stone, and in the very fabric of our being. Look up at the night sky for a moment. Each star you see could be a sun surrounded by planets. Some of those planets may be lifeless and barren, while others might teem with ecosystems as rich and diverse as Earth's. Among them could be worlds where beings walk, think, and dream as we do. And somewhere out there, perhaps on a planet circling a distant star, other eyes may be gazing upward, wondering the same thing we wonder. Are we alone? Where do we come from? If life on Earth was seeded from elsewhere, then those beings are not strangers. They are our cosmic kin. The atoms in your body were forged in ancient stars billions of years ago. The DNA inside your cells may carry fragments of code that once flowed through other worlds. In a very real sense, you are already part of the universe, connected to it in ways both physical and profound. But what does this mean for us here and now, on this small blue planet spinning silently in the dark? It means that our story is far from over. The same forces that shaped us may still be at work, guiding us toward a future we can barely imagine. Our rapid technological progress, the rockets piercing the sky, the telescopes peering into distant galaxies, the computers decoding the secrets of life itself, may not be random achievements. They may be signs that we're beginning to awaken to our true potential. For thousands of years, our ancestors told stories of gods who descended from the heavens. Perhaps those stories were not merely metaphorical. Perhaps they were memories, passed down in symbols and myths, of real encounters with the beings who shaped our destiny. If so, we may soon stand where those ancient ancestors once stood, on the brink of contact with a power far greater than ourselves. Yet, as humbling as this possibility is, it also brings responsibility. If life was given to us, nurtured and guided across eons, then we too bear the duty to nurture and protect it. We are stewards of Earth, caretakers of a legacy that stretches back to the stars. The choices we make today, about the environment, technology, and our treatment of one another, will ripple outward into the future, shaping not only our world, but perhaps many others yet unborn. The universe is vast, and the distances between stars are almost unimaginable. But distance does not mean disconnection. Every time you breathe, you are part of a chain of life that began long before you, a chain that may link countless worlds across the galaxy. Your heartbeat is a rhythm shared by all living things, a song first sung in the darkness of space billions of years ago. Science is now giving us the tools to see this truth more clearly. With each advance in genome sequencing, artificial intelligence, and space exploration, we move closer to understanding our origins. One day soon, we may find definitive evidence, a microbe on Mars whose DNA matches our own, or a signal encoded in our genome that can only be the work of intelligence. When that day comes, everything will change. Some people fear such a revelation, believing it would destroy our beliefs or disrupt our societies. But perhaps it would do the opposite. Imagine if every human being knew, beyond any doubt, that we are all part of the same cosmic family. There would be no us and them, no true strangers, only branches of the same universal tree. Wars, prejudices, and divisions might seem as meaningless as arguments between the leaves of a single tree. This vision may seem idealistic, even impossible. But consider how much humanity has already achieved. We've harnessed fire, crossed oceans, split the atom, walked on the moon. Each of these milestones once seemed unthinkable. If we can do these things, why not this? Why not take the next great step, not just technologically, but spiritually and ethically, becoming a species worthy of the stars from which we came? There is another possibility, one that is both exciting and sobering. If we were seeded by others, then perhaps one day we too will carry life beyond our home world. We may become the cosmic gardeners, planting the seeds of Earth on distant planets. This would complete a circle stretching back billions of years. The question then would not just be, where did we come from? But what legacy will we leave behind? Maybe this is the ultimate purpose of life: to spread, to grow, to connect, to ensure that the universe is never silent, never empty. Perhaps every civilization that reaches a certain level faces the same choice we do now: to remain bound to one world or to step out into the stars and carry the flame of life forward. The myths of the past may one day become the realities of the future. When we visit other worlds, when we descend from the sky to explore and teach, the beings who witness our arrival may tell stories about us. To them, we may seem like gods, just as our ancestors once looked up in awe at those who came before, and so the cycle continues. Creation and exploration, planting and harvesting, beginning and ending, woven together in an endless dance across the cosmos. As you listen to these words, take a deep breath. Feel your chest rise and fall the same way it has for millions of years. Inside, your molecules forged in stars, genes shaped by journeys across the void, memories encoded in patterns older than Earth itself. You're not just a human being. You're a fragment of the universe, alive and aware, a witness to its unfolding story. Perhaps one day, when our descendants look back at this time, they will see it as the moment when humanity finally remembered who we truly are. The moment when we stopped gazing at the stars as distant, unreachable lights, and realized they were home. Until that day comes, we remain here, on this fragile world, caretakers of a mystery still unfolding. The answers are written in our DNA, waiting to be discovered. And when we finally understand them, when we unlock the last secrets of our origins, we may find that the universe has been whispering to us all along. You're not alone. You never were. You never will be.